For more on this, we can go to France 24's Gulliver Cragg in Kyiv. Good morning, Gulliver. This appears to be a massive wave of Russian attacks on Ukraine overnight. What more can you tell us?
Yes, there are several sites in Kyiv that were hit overnight and also this morning around 6 a.m. One of them is behind me, but I couldn't get close enough to get a very good view of it. That's a residential building. There's also a 9-story residential building where it's thought that more people might be trapped under the rubble. As you said, so far, the mayor of Kyiv is saying that 4 people died here and at least 4 also died in Dnipro in central eastern Ukraine. So this attack wasn't focused entirely on Kyiv, as many people had been fearing after the Russians' announcement a little over a week ago that they would be targeting Kyiv and targeting what they called decision-making centres, because we've seen Dnipro in particular getting very badly hit in this latest massive overnight strike. And since Friday, Kyiv, though, has really been on edge because Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine's intelligence services, the Telegram channel bloggers who normally warn us about the attacks and tell us what they can about what they think the Russians are preparing, all were saying that there was going to be a huge attack on Kyiv. Actually, people here were beginning to let down their guard last night, thinking that maybe this was all just a bluff and it wasn't going to happen. One way in which it does seem to have been a bit of a bluff, or at least they haven't done it yet, is that we haven't seen this massive targeting of the decision-making centres of government buildings, and certainly not embassies. At any rate, that's the pattern that seems to be emerging as the details slowly come out about what was targeted overnight. It seems to have been, once again, areas like the one I'm in now, Lukyanivka, where there are some military production facilities and other potential military targets, but they tend to miss them and hit residential buildings or commercial buildings instead, or at least that happens very often. And then sort of industrial areas down by the river, for example. I know that somewhere was hit that's close to where I live. They didn't change strategy or tactic, the Russians, with this one and start targeting embassies or government buildings in a more concerted way.
Now, these attacks are happening at a time when we're being told that Russian troops are having difficulty on the front lines in Ukraine.
Absolutely. The Ukrainians have made a big step, it seems, to containing the Russian advance by attacking the logistical routes that are supplying Russian forces and also all of the Russian occupied areas to the south, including Crimea, along the roads that go from Mariupol basically to Crimea. That seems to be making a huge difference. May was, for the Russians, as the Ukrainians are describing it, an anti-record, the lowest number of square kilometers of Ukraine that they managed to take over in a month since the Ukrainian counteroffensive of 2023, which didn't amount to much, but nevertheless was the last time that the Russians were losing more territory than they were gaining. They are now again losing more territory than they are gaining, but the numbers are very, very small. The Ukraine is not galloping forward and taking back territory either. Yesterday there was a security forum in Kyiv with a lot of big hitters speaking, and Kirilo Budanov, who's the head of the presidential office now, Zelensky's chief of staff, if you like, he replaced Andriy Yermak in that role, but he used to be head of military intelligence, and he was in a way playing down the excitement about the recent Ukrainian successes, saying, yes, we're hitting their logistics, but that doesn't mean we've completely cut their logistics. Yes, we're harming the Russian economy with these deep strikes on Russian oil refineries, but that means Russia is in recession. That doesn't mean Russia is on the board of collapse. I think they've got a bit of a feeling again that they need to curb Ukrainians' enthusiasm because although the tide looks like it's beginning to turn, this is not something really decisive. And rumors about Vladimir Putin being in trouble and his popularity falling in Russia amount just to so much Kremlinology, really, because people really don't know what possibility there might be if the Russian leader is weakened for him to be in any way ousted. No one seems to have a clear idea of how something like that could happen, although there have been a lot of articles in the Western press recently about Vladimir Putin being in trouble.